Hey friends. We just had another preview. It was beautiful. I actually had some thoughts come through this morning before the run, and they were kind of verified by the day's activities, and then by actually a beautiful kind of talk back that we had with the audience after the run today. And so what was coming up for me this morning was just this, I had this impression come through of suddenly kind of recognizing that when I'm in the state of performing, which I've talked about a week or two ago when I was first kind of starting to go on stage, and when I had to briefly run the track for another actor, there was a bunch of stuff that showed up for me, and one of the things was that I noticed that after a run, particularly after a full run of the play, when we were really in the flow of things, and particularly after a run of the play in front of an audience, which we've now done 3 times, I come out of that in a state of total surrender. And it was really interesting to observe that, because I spend so much of my time, and I have spent so much of my time over the last 2 years, 3 years really, a little more than 3 years, in the kind of writer's brain, the bird's eye view of the writer's brain, and entering into the performance and just being completely in it. It necessitates being surrendered to the play as it is right now. And that's a really interesting perspective to have. And I feel like I have sort of a privileged position in that I get to have both. I get to have the overarching bird's eye view side of things with regard to this piece, and I've lived a lot of the last 2 years there in collaboration and discussions, but then to sort of have the imperative, I don't get to sit in the house every night and just watch. I have to at some point decide, now we're in it, I'm in it, these are the lines, these are the songs, this is the track, this is the sequence, everything is what it is, and I commit to that. I have to surrender to that. I have to really give over to that. And what that does to my writer's brain is it almost like it dislodges any fixed positions that I've taken about what needs to happen, what I think we should do. There's just a certain kind of gentleness that creeps in after I go through that surrender process, and it's really interesting to observe. I realized it sort of last night as I came off stage, and then had a couple of brief conversations after the show with friends and collaborators and people more kind of on the writing team with me, and I just realized that I felt more open to not just to their proposals, but just to anything that might strike us as an idea for where to go. I was just more open. As opposed to having a fixed sense of, because it's impossible not to have opinions and not to have a sense of like, oh, I think I know what I think about this point, or I think I know what I want to push for in terms of what changes I think would be beneficial or whatever. But I just noticed that I could approach all those questions from a really relaxed place. And that was a wonderful experience. It was just it was a kind of relief, and it's kind of a I feel like it's an ace up my sleeve as far as continuing to take a fresh perspective. You know, one of the things that's hard about writing as a creative process is so much of it does happen in our head. You know, I mean, theatrical writing, luckily, we get to go into a room and watch other people say the words we've written and do the thing, and we get to observe that. And so there's actually there's a lot of dialogue that happens there, and there's a lot of discovery in the room that just wouldn't happen strictly on the page with a pen and paper. There is that alchemy of theater thing that just kind of happens in the live moment. But I just feel so lucky that on this particular project, and this is not the only time I've experienced this, but it's certainly the first time in a long time, and it's not a common experience. To be able to really fully kind of live both of those worlds, and I'm feeling a lot of gratitude for that. And I'm also sort of now on the lookout for, now that I know this is how this works, how can I employ that strategy? How can I actually utilize the understanding that comes with that? Because it came out of, I left the theater and just checked in with one of my collaborators, and it was like, we started having conversations, and as we were talking about things that we had talked about before, I just noticed a certain softness to my own perspective on them. And it was like, oh, it was almost like, you know, I'd run a marathon or just done a really good workout, and my body was just relaxed. It had done a bunch of work, but it was also, you know, wrung out in that exhilarated way. Like maybe I feel tired, or maybe I feel a certain amount of having spent some energy, but also but that comes with its own kind of relaxed feeling of like relief and calm and surrender. There's a surrender in it, and it was just that physical sense of surrender that then when we started having the conversation, I realized, oh yeah, this idea that I was resisting before, I'm not so resistant to. This thing that I thought I'm not so attached to. It doesn't necessarily change my mind, because, you know, there might be perfectly good reasons why an opinion might be right, or why a particular idea might be good. But that refreshing of the mind was the thing that was my biggest takeaway, and it was kind of an epiphany, like, oh, I should like come off stage and then do my thinking about the show, or then have a conversation about this, because I'm in this state of ease and kind of availability from just having completely surrendered to the play, you know. So that was really gorgeous. That was just really, really striking and really kind of inspiring. And same thing again tonight. My God, you know, it was just, we're having fun now. There are still changes to come, but we're really getting on the horse in terms of how this thing moves, and we're really kind of riding the horse. It's palpable that the entire company is there. We are a team. We are pulling in the same direction. We are doing the thing, and that's just a really great feeling. I commented on it in the talk back, because it feels like, as a writer, that's a really useful tool. It's really useful to recognize that, and to kind of realize that there's this state change And that a lot of times when I am attached to something, that's a state as well. It's not the idea. It's not the thing that I'm attached to. It might just be my state. I mean, Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. He's a master of sort of identifying that if you want to change behavior and you want to change thinking, the easiest way to do that is to change your state, because state is something we can control. We can control our energy level. We can do physical things that put us in a different state, and that inherently affects the thoughts we're thinking, the behaviors that we're gonna engage in. It's the backdrop of everything. And so this is, I think, just another version of that, and kind of realizing, oh, this is a really powerful approach, or it's a powerful tool to have, to be able to know that we can change our state, whenever we need to, in the kind of as a tool, rather than as something that just randomly happens, or that is built into our life because we have certain routine activities that do that for us. It's like knowing that that's even there feels like a big exercise in consciousness from where I'm sitting, because it's like, if I could intentionally, choose my state intentionally every day, what a big step, right? Like, what a big aspect of our life to take under control in that way. So that's what showed up today. Very, very grateful for it. Grateful to the people and the cast and just the team, the writers, everybody. It's been such a beautiful thing to be able to take this thing this far, and to kind of be where we are now, heading into the run. So thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate you. Love you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow.